So, in the second talk of the second part of the book, it's a very delicate topic about morals and interests and how they oppose each other or interact in society. In the last talk, when we started out talking about how power and capital of material and symbolic resources are used to gain more power or to get to where you want to get, that arises a question about, well, what are your morals and why do you allow yourself to do so, and what happens if you don't? And this is what the book is digging into deep in here in this chapter, talking about some kind, explaining the motivation for actions and the motives, and why there are these kind of difficulties in trying to gain monopoly. At the same time, you wanna things to go according to what is good for the humans, and why does not really work out as sociology has been studying. So let's go into this and see how it works actually, because it's very fascinating, scary, and a bit difficult to grasp, in my opinion, because it is something that is really needed, but at the same time not really there. And so let's start with this word of doxic accept, and that's a word from Pierre Bourdieu. He says that it is the idea that we have accepted some references and ways of life that we do not discuss anymore. There is just a doxa, it's like something that you have agreed on, it's from religion, but it's also in the modern life and in those organizations around us and the bureaucracy and the whole philosophy that, well, everyone has to go and find the means for empowering him or herself and taking control over the resources. So it's actually, in my words, a jungle out there. It's you have to go out, fight, nick anyone around you can, put people aside and get through to what you want. And if you do not succeed, that means you're not the good gene, you are not the one who will be able to run society. So it's the powerful, the strong, the sharks, the big animals, the dragons, whoever can get through, the smart people, the snakes, the wolves, all these pictures from the animal I'm using, not the book. And it's, of course, as I always say, it's my talk from and inspired by the book, and not a Slavic introduction of every little detail in it. So it's kind of also explaining what I understand from it. So this doxic accept puts us in a situation where we have trouble relating morals to own interest, and own interest is leading us to competition. We are out competing on getting what is needed for our happiness. Everyone must pursue his or her own happiness. Okay, how do we do that? Well, by gaining that power we just talked about in the earlier chapter. You have to have this symbolic and cultural and material capital. You need to be strong. You need to be associated with people who can help you when you need it. And you need to be culturally endorsed in many ways, so you can be that person that can get through things and can make your company succeed, or your life become important for life and for everybody else. And so you do not think about all the losers. That's their own fault. They couldn't get through. I was the lucky one. I was the good one. I was the smart one who got through. And then on top of that, they mock us all by selling us books on how they did it. It's very funny. I really like this part where we are in this society. I guess history, we're going to look back at us with a big laugh. We are thinking of ourselves as, oh, so educated and so well developed. And we are taken in by some ideas that are very strange. Everybody is buying books on how to become a millionaire, how to become successful in your life. This is how I did it to become this or that, and they show you a picture of this smart person standing in the beautiful suit and has been to the barber before that and said, this is how I did it. And so he tells you everything maybe, but he doesn't tell you the things you really need to know, and that is, well, you lost the competition, or you do not have the basics and access to the key elements, or maybe you have to be born with it or in it. So this fight over the symbolic means and the power, as we said, the guy who wanted to get to the university, high IQ, very good results, but the position has been given to the son of some influential person because they need to relate to each other. And so we have people who are relating to the power that people have and wanting part of it, and thereby excluding people who have the right to get access to that power and that symbolic capital that they should have had to get on in life. And that's opposite the transparency in society. It's corruption, as we call it, but corruption that's going on anyway. And it's not being able to be stopped because even the transparency groups are infiltrated by people who want to control them and put them under the rule of the power. So are we really in such a jungle? This is my question out of what I've been reading, and not the book's question at all. Yeah, not at all. It is a question in the book, but indirectly. So let's go back and continue and see how all these things really started and how it developed, how it happens. And so if you go all the way back and look, we have some needs that we can agree on. This is common sense. We need to achieve something. We need to have safety, security. We need to have clothes and food and heat. And we need a source of income or a way to trade our goods. So we need all these things because we as humans have these needs. They can call it basic needs. And when we go out with the motive of fulfilling them, well, here we meet society. I have the needs and the others have the same need, and we go on. And when things are good, then we cooperate and we all get home with slice of the goods. But when we are only competing and may the most powerful animal win and crush everyone else, well, that's where a lot of people go back losers, and only one or two go back with that power. And then those will try to get back at those and take it back from them. We have some funny stories about that, and also a fine movie that's trying to show two big companies competing and how they are using the agents of each company to steal the secrets. And then it turns out that the two agents are working together, even though they are old rivals, to take down both parties, and so on and so on. And you have this all the time, because this is the symptom of society of today. Cooperation is only when it is needed and when it makes sense for the own interest of the people who want to get the goods. And then whenever they get it, well, they push the others out. So what we've been seeing in mafia movies about these mafiosis who work together to steal something, and then they shoot everyone else and take the good. And that's what's happening in society. It's very sad and tragic. I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm laughing because it's so sad, so tragic to see the lines going there. So in the end, we are in a kind of what's called lifestyle in relation to society. And sometimes this lifestyle we have, it can differ a lot from group to group, people to people, culture to culture, but it gives us those needs. So if our lifestyle is, as they call, lavished, and you are very, very sensitive and sought, and you are very, what can you say? You have a lot of goods in your then you will the smallest lacking of something will make you feel uncomfortable. Why people with another kind of lifestyle, they can go through a lot of trouble without even feeling it. So our needs are also driven by our lifestyle, the lifestyle we are living in life. And so we go and fight to bring back that lifestyle. And sometimes we get into what's called a minus situation, where we cannot really get through to and what we want. But that what we want becomes synonymous with our life. So that objective we want to reach, like, well, for me to have a very good and satisfying life where I can be happy, I need $500,000 of this currency. And then I go and try to find a way to get it. And so I do things that makes it possible and find a way to cheat myself to it, or maybe by legal means use my power to get through. And when I get it, I want to continue that lifestyle, and I want to get these objects that I think is making me happy. So I become one with the objects I'm trying to get through. And those motives are so self-centered. But we will realize, says sociology, and the people here in the book, we will realize that whenever we're going out, gaining those self-centered goods or means, and we all have them. We are all in some way self-centered. It's not because I'm pointing finger at someone or sociology is. It's basically human needs. You go for fulfilling them. So when you go out doing that, you will realize one sure and important thing that does not differ. You're not alone out there. There are people you will be dependent on to get through to what you want. You will be dependent on the one who will promote you or help you through to that part where you can sing in an audition and then you have to be chosen, or you will be that person who will be chosen for the job. And so you're all the way dependent on something or someone, or the productions, or the transport, or the people who will deliver. So it's all interdependent, and we know that. This is a very common sense thing. But it becomes important when we look at it from the perspective of wanting to have it and let people work it out for you. And then you use it to empower yourself more, and then you say, this is my property, and get out. And this is only me who can have access to that. And so I will exclude you. It's like you can have 100 persons build that beautiful villa for you with the swimming pool and the music and the walls and every decoration that you wanted, and then you exclude them. They are not welcome there anymore. It's not like a union of corporates who say, hey friend, it was me who built that house for you. I was part of those who put up those beautiful windows. I was the architect who chose this and that for you. I was the one who cleaned the swimming pool. Thank you very much. You got a little pay for it. This is what you needed, and here's what I need, and you're excluded. And that power I brought myself, or I got to, or maybe have inherited, that brings me more power, and that makes me reach more of my goals, usually, of course. And so that ownership becomes very important to me, and I become part of the object I want to realize, and it becomes the ownership of that object that defines me. So we are talking identity here, but also sociologically, that we go into a relation that is called asymmetrical relation. And so it makes division between people. Then some people have more and others have less. Some people are privileged, then you have the underprivileged, then you have the depraved, and you have the people who are totally suppressed, and everything is total deprivation, if you can say so. These are my words used from other places, not in the book here directly, but then you are there on this level. And so every time you go out in society to fulfill your need, you will come back and see you can't get through with anything. Why? And that's because they say here that there is someone trying to uphold what they call a monopoly. The idea of monopoly, the total control over resources, is a very central thing in those type of societies that goes with the idea of go out, fulfill your need. If you're strong enough, you'll get through. When you get through, you get the power. When you get the power, you can keep it, and you have the ownership, and you will protect it at any cost. And you don't want anyone to have the same access as you, because then that will weaken you. That's how they think anyway. At the same time, you find out you're independent of these people. So how can you do to satisfy everyone, or maybe try to satisfy everyone and get what you want and stay on top? So that's actually the transaction between humans of, okay, you came and cleaned the pool, and so what? You got the money, go home and use it. And he goes home and he's not fulfilled, he's not satisfied, because he's also driven by that competition. So he goes back at night and he tries to steal the diamond that he just saw on his way, or he tries to change the status quo and become the person who takes over. That can be the helper of that person in that villa, and so on and so on. And we get the whole drama that we are enacting, and movies are trying to share with us, and stories and novels are trying to tell us about. It's observers, these people, of how society is actually working. Sometimes they can't see the whole picture, but they can see a small part of it, and then they reflect it to us. So when we go through these parts of sociology, suddenly, like I am doing and have been doing when I read this book many years ago, I said, wow, I can see the connections, and I can see how things are working. So this monopoly becomes so important because that will end the competition. And at the same time, you are so interdependent that this competition, as they say here, will never end. Why? Because even though you dream or you hope of controlling the resources that brings you to that power and to keep above everybody else, you cannot do it, because that will be a way to self-destruction. Why? Because the others who want to fulfill the same goals feel so excluded of everything that they stop supplying, and they turn against, or maybe, as they say, they go on a strike, or they leave, or they go to places where they think they can fulfill their dreams and destiny in a better way. And so in the end, and it's in its deepest understanding, that this kind of monopoly will be self-destructive because you are always interdependent of others. And so it's about keeping the competition going and keeping people feeling they can still fulfill that dream. And that's also part of the illusion. Some of these people who owe the monopoly and the power to much more than others, they have learned to throw out. So if you take everything and leave nothing, the other animals out there are going to turn against you altogether, and they will hunt you down, and they will somehow get through to you, and it will be self-destructive because you need them, as the big dragon or lion needed that small fox, or needed the mouse, or something like that. So why not throw parts of the bones out to these people, or leave them in the belief that they can fulfill their dreams at least to a certain point, and keep feeding them that idea of, look at him or her, he was nothing and now he became everything. You can do the same. You can do the same. Get out of jail, work hard, and you can go there. And many people know it's never going to happen, because these people are keeping the monopoly so tight and so closed that they only let maybe 1 in a million in from time to time, just to show people that it can be available. And so keep chasing it. Keep running after the carrot, the money. Keep chasing things that you will never realize, and they know that. And that's the illusion, and that's the way you can regulate, so you do not become you do not go to that self-destructive mood, like it's called the tyranny of contempt, maybe the tyranny of control and monopoly. And so this is a way to keep the difference going, at the same time keep the categories of who you are and who they are as clear as they ever have been. And as we said earlier, there is this mental distancing and the physical distancing. So if you make this physical distancing, you will end up with the Rosa Parks revolution. But if you don't know what it is, it's the lady who jumped on the bus because there was a massive dissatisfaction from those 200 years old generations of workers who came from West Africa, partly Muslim, partly nature people, partly Christians, and who came to the United States to work and were slaves and didn't have the same basic rights. And here we are again. People are using them to uphold the competition and the monopoly they are keeping. And when those slaves realized they are actually human and they have the same rights and they cannot be treated this way, and they revolted and they were helped along by the Civil War and all that, they became on the route of asking more and more participation in that society. All that has been talked about in earlier chapters. But then you come to this situation where they want to fulfill themselves, but they are not really able to. Only a few are able to. So what you call the social stratospheres are locked in many ways because of that monopoly and competition. And it's maybe in our time most locked than ever, as according to several economic books and talks, that, well, we have the richest part of the world today are 2,000 times richer than the greatest pharaoh of the time of the Israelis. And so you can compare it even. And where are the rest of the people? Well, they are somewhere underprivileged or depraved or totally wiped out of the measures. But most people are still in that case of being underprivileged or depraved, and so they can see, maybe with time, through that illusion of being cheated in. And those permanent divides are also used to say, well, you'd never reach there because there's something missing. You're not doing things correctly. And it's because of your social inheritance, or because you are lazy and you cannot do things correctly. And that's partly true. But at the same time, these people are lazy and not doing things correctly and having that behavior because of the social environment that they have been in. So that's what sociology is about. You can be the individual who's getting there, but you can also be part of that environment that allows you to get there. That's why people who already got there and their kids are having a lot easier time staying there. As Camus would say, well, the person who has all the means to climb the mountain does not deserve the price. But the person who came all the way with no means and climbed the mountain, that's the person who took the longest steps and the hardest way. And those are the people to be praised. And we have them from time to time. They just show up, and they are also like ideals or pictures to be looked up to, that life can change and you can achieve your dream and you can fulfill your goals, and the competition is true, and you can go and become the new mayor or the new person in charge, or the one who fulfill all his dreams of power and monopoly in the end, because you don't want anyone to interfere or take it away, or you lose the position you have. But life doesn't work like that, they say. It works like, when it is like that, you can never stay in status quo for a long time, because somebody will start opposing your monopoly. So the competition will go on, and the fight and struggle will continue. And so here you need the morals. And this is a tricky issue, in my opinion. And now I'm talking freely all the time, of course, but still out from outlines of the book. And they are speaking about the morals here. That morals can actually be seen as that two-sided Janus, in a way, that two-sided coin. It has a head and a tail. It is a dragon and at the same time, what can you say, a friendly face. And morals are needed for those people who are in power and can get through with their power, to understand that there are humans around them who have the same needs, and they must be fulfilled, and you have to do what you can so other humans can have an acceptable and decent life. This is a human right. This is universal, because do for others what you want others to have been doing for you. Put yourself in their shoe, or put your grandpa, who was a very poor, lousy man, in their shoe, and look up and see, wouldn't you have wanted that man or woman to have treated him or her the same way? And now we are seeing these changes. We see people who are like kids of slavery or excluded groups or hated groups become the powerful ones. And those who were from the old families have been crackling and toppling down and losing their effect and losing their power bases. And so things have changed, maybe some places totally to the opposite. You can see it all over the world in the last 100 and 150 years, where the stratospheres have really shaken everything up. The example of the East, that was an empire and then was toppled and becomes the proletarians who led, and then the one party, and people who are totally unknown in prison, and workers who had no means of becoming what they became. They got all the way up there, and with them followed, of course, the tyranny of wanting it all and keeping the monopoly, and they used it, and because it's a jungle. That's what we have been taught and learned. Compete, go fulfill your dreams on your own. If you don't do it, it's your own fault. You're not good enough. And so be smart, cheat everyone. If you can get away with it, you're a winner. If you can't, well, that's bad for you. You will have to start over, or maybe it is over, game over, whatever they say. And so the morals rises as a very important question, because whenever we look at this, we like it in a way, but we also feel afraid of it, and we don't really accept it, because we can see its consequences and where it can lead to. And so here the morals become very, very important, because what are these morals? Why? Why should we care for another human? And why should others have the access to compete on a free foot with ourselves? And why is monopoly on a lot of things not really the way forward? So monopolists will say the monopoly will give you the space to plan ahead It's like having a monopoly on the kingdom. You are not all day fighting over competition. You can rest and you can look to the productivity and prosperous future of your kingdom, and you can invest in it. And the same with big, very huge companies today and corporates. And this is an actual argument that is out there right now, that, well, if you leave them with that monopoly, they can build the future, and they can invest without all the time being slowed down by competition. That's easy to say when you already have competed and won. Then you want to uphold the monopoly, and that's a way of saying, oh, for everybody's sake, stop competing with me. Well, why didn't you use that argument before you got there and you competed somebody else out of line? And why didn't you say, listen, let me support you, and you become the monopoly? So there is something in it that rings false. But here comes the morals. And the morals seems two-sided, because at one side, it's a deep and true care of how you deal and act towards human needs. You have the same needs as others, so you have to be as you are, a human. Being human, it means you care for others, you have empathy, you look into others' needs, you try to fight for human rights and lift people out of poverty and deprivation and give them a new chance to fulfill themselves, at least to some limit. They are not gonna get all the way like you maybe, but at least they are on a track where they can feel satisfied and not in that hole of hopelessness they maybe are living in. And so that's the true basic of the values of caring and empathy, human to human. But it has another side, that is those morals can be used negatively to say to people, oh, be moralistic, do not cheat that big boss, do not cheat the company, be good to the organization, follow the rules, do not steal, do not take from the money that we can actually spend as we like, because it's the logic in the organization. And I, the boss, who is earning 2 points something a year, and you're only earning 1% of that, that's how life is. I am the winner, you're not that person. And I'm the successful, clever, and man who should be in this position, but you're not. Follow the rules, stick to the morals. And that's the morals of the slavery. And religion is also used into this package to keep people there. That's what Nietzsche has been trying to get through, in my opinion. I've been reading all his books, and they're difficult to understand, but when you put the picture together, you try to find out, what is this guy trying to say actually? Morals of the slave. It's not just a revolution against religion and God, as some people want it to be. It is a revolution against using morals to keep people in place by those people who have the power and are misusing it, and are using the monopoly of power to get away with a lot of things that people cannot even object to. And so this is what have been shown in several experiments. They here mention Stanley Milgram's experiment from the 60s, where he tried to see how people who adhere to both morals and some kind of argument of what's right and wrong, and the competition mood, they will just follow orders, and they will maybe live out some kind of experiments or do things they would never have done otherwise. And so the morals can be used to keep people in check and in place. It's called neutralizations technique in a broad word, and that's keeping people in distance and away. Well, if the small man driving a cab somewhere is breaking the law, maybe taking $2 extra for something, wow, everything hits back on him, because for any price he has to be kept in place. But his big boss, who owns those companies and has been gaining more and more access by hitting other companies and driving them out, and maybe with bad means that's not legal at all. Some people have these stories, I've been telling them. Well, that guy is a profitable, strong, respectable, good person, who's, by the way, also related to the ones in power, and maybe the son-in-law of the chief who is upholding the law. And so he has all the symbolic, cultural, and economic means to withhold his power and to stay close to it and to protect himself from being opposed. But that poor little driver who is not earning enough and says, well, these people have been competing for their winnings and they're pushing everyone out. He's using tricks and means that's not legal. Let me try it, but just on that little scale. and take $2 more for a trip, and I will keep them in my pocket, not pay taxes out of them. Wow, everything comes crashing down, the whole system, because you have to keep all these people in check at all time. And the more there are people around in the world, it becomes the masses, as they say today. It's not only a crowd, it's not only a group, it's not only a nation, it's not a people, it's a mass. That means no logic. It's a big, ununderstandable mass of people who are just standing there, black heads, and not really being distinguished from one another. And in sociology, they have found that this has also their dynamics. They can actually start to act in a way that can be very irresponsible and also suppressive and with no logic. It's like just instinctive mass of people who interact with each other and gear each other up to something. There have been made experiments in sociology. They mention that if people are put together in tight spaces and they are very, very quickly taking over a certain pattern of actions in between them that they would never do if they had been under normal circumstances. And that's what they mention as example, is like silly example that if you put people in a marketplace and something happens and everybody is just trying to flee, people won't help each other. They will just run in all directions because they get affected by the first ones who just scream and run and step over the others, and they started stepping over the rest. Instead of keeping the head cool and saying, let's help each other out of this, it will also go quicker, because when we run like this and step over each other, we will get this blockade at the door, and fewer of us will get out than if we work together to get out by keeping our heads cool. So something happens when people also become masses, and the mass action, as they say, can have irrational, inconsequential character that make the person affectual. The individual become affectual in that mass, and just really not realizing any rationality of what's going on. We see it in big demonstrations and people who are just wanting to change some things, and then things get out of hand, and they don't really know when they finished what really went on and where it started. It becomes anonymous, faceless, non-personal in many ways. And so it goes above and beyond the border of moralities. And you could say, yeah, isn't that the way to break through? Well, that's how the world is trying. And that's how the masses are trying. And we can all see what goes on. Things change or do not change. And if they change by randomness or because of the press of these masses, well, what we get is another kind of random monopoly from new persons who can use the masses and rise above, and then they will be settled for the next long time saying, yeah, we changed everything. Who's that new guy? He's working for us and he will do the things that we want and he will empower everybody. And then in time they will realize that wasn't it. He was also monopolistic and going for excluding people from the competition and keeping them in place, using the morals again. Morals of freedom, cooperation, whatever. So morals has two sides to it when it comes to changing or doing well in society. There is the genuine side of really caring for the humans, and that message has been lost many places. We do not believe really in it anymore, and we just believe, talking and so on about being good human. Who are good? Nobody is good, and especially the ones who talk about it. They are the big cruel ones who just want to control people and cheat them. So we've many places lost that believe in the goodness and the goodness of human. That's why I like this guy from Holland who just wrote a book called The Good Human, and been really documenting really a lot about how humans really can have traits of goodness, altruism, helping others without looking to themselves, unselfishness. And how he also punctuate a lot of these sociological studies, like Stanley Milgram's, for instance, showing that, well, it doesn't uphold. These people weren't acting on pure and sheer cruelty and because they got orders to, but because they were manipulated, of course, too, and that's not easy. to do all the time. We have it when we see big people being followed, persecuted, and so on. It's not easy to get that to that level of doing so. It needs a lot of manipulative techniques and ways of dehumanization, as we talked about in another place. And so the morals must be genuine, but we have lost belief in them, and that's why we more than ever need that prophet, whoever it is. Like anybody can be the hero, as Batman says. We need those voices that really genuinely believe in the idea of compassion, empathy, helping humans. And that's what Simone Weil, who said, well, when she looked into the history of humanity, she saw that the first thing humans learned was compassion. Otherwise, they wouldn't have survived, because the first hunter who got hit and bled, if he was left there because he became weak, and just leave him, he's a failure, let's go on hunting, and then there is more for the rest, and leave his share out, well, they will all have suffered the same consequence, because sooner or later they will all be hit. And that's exactly the logic of the anti-logic of that competitive mind of monopoly and the jungle. Oh yeah, it will be self-destructive in the end, because everybody can be hit and nobody will care. No one cares, as this guy says on Facebook, having this funny site where he quotes a lot of things. And so nobody cares. Okay, that is the self-destructiveness, and welcome robots and welcome IA or all that. And even those people who sit in power, they will be overtaken in the end, because it will become self-destructive. This is a prophecy that that will uphold. And so we need the genuine morals, but we don't know how to get through with them. And we need to get rid at the same time of that false face of morals, the slave morals, that just keep people in place. At the same time, we don't want anarchy, and we don't want the masses just lashing out and bringing a new tyrant and a new monopolistic group into place of power. So it's a delicate action, it's a delicate balance as well in society as it is in everyday life. And so basically, the monopolistic people would like to say, suffocate the genuine morals, because they will hit them and they will have to care for others. They cannot just go on and live the beautiful life they have excluded themselves to do. They will feel responsible every day for, why am I having all this and others are not? And some have got this, and they go out in the world and try to become charitable people, or give it up, or give some of it up to some good means. And this is also covered in the media, that can also affect people in many ways, saying this is people who have got a lot, and they are sharing it, and they're really thinking about the other humans far away, and they're not wanting anything back in return. Maybe they are, because when they come back, they want this praise and to become more powerful in their society by helping someone far away who cannot get back at them. So maybe it's not genuine after all, who knows? But we need to believe in the genuine idea of compassion, empathy, and every human's right to have a decent life, and that monopoly should never at any time exclude anyone else from trying and from having the access. Look today at the big companies who are eating up small businesses and people who cannot afford being on their own, working with their own businesses, because people are not buying from them. Wherever you go, you can find everything in these very, very big malls. Like, I went to this company to buy something for the car, and I found stuff for the kitchen, and I found burgers, and I found hot dogs, and I found things that shouldn't have been there. And so everything is being mashed up by these big corporates in that competition of power, and they want to compete each other out. And on the other side of that road is another company that's dealing with the same things that they have been taking in. So they tell you, when you are coming here for some parts for the car, and you need something that belongs to the boat, the kitchen, in the boat or something, that you can find it here. You don't need to go over there. So they're competing themselves out, or trying to, and maybe in the secret by very bad means and not so good ways, that competition will become destructive. So we need those genuine morals of letting everyone get the chance and feel that he or she truly can build themselves up and have the space to use their creativity and actions to empower themselves and get through with some success that can make life really reflect that happiness on them. We all know that not all will get through, and some people will fail, also due to some lacking in personality, persistence, and cleverness, and all that. We all know that. We are all like accustomed to that. There is also failures when there is success, but the monopoly of that is very harsh and so self-destructive that we need to get back that idea of solidarity, even though it can cost a lot, and the idea of, well, a competition will rise even though you don't want it to, and even though you think you can keep it in place. When we go back to that feudal system in the Middle Ages that some people want to take us back to, and they just look at one picture of it, one aspect, saying, well, in the feudal society it was all peace and calm, and the king could control everything because he had no competition, and the feudal lords could control the land and let the people who can work, but they owe everything, and those who owe have the power to put on the rules and put people in check. And then they used the priests and the imams and whatever were around to put people in place religiously and say you will end in hell if you revolt. And that's why those who revolted were seen as martyrs later and heroes, because they really could see through how religion and ideas and values were used to keep people in check. But let's look at those pictures. Were they really so harmful as we think? What about the 100-Year War, the 30-Year War, the wars between this and that country all the time, the feudal barons and lords revolting against the king because he monopolized something or took their land? Shakespeare is full of these stories when he's talking about Richard the Second, Richard the Third, and Henry the Fourth and Henry the Sixth, and this and that. He's keep repeating also these themes of, well, they got upset with him and his cousin tried to topple him and he got help from the other barons who felt that the taxes has become too much, and he got help from the people because the people felt the suppression too. So it's not gonna be that quiet society you people think because of the monopoly you got. Competition is a part of the world and it should always be. But this is my talk now. But it is like we need the morals, the genuine morals, to go hand in hand, so we do not drop off the humanity on the way of pursuing so-called happiness and successfulness. That's what's been going wrong all the time. And we don't want to listen to that. We don't want to turn to it because we don't believe in it. And we think that these people who are preaching these things are genuinely false, if you can say it like that. Genuinely false. That's beautiful to say that somebody is genuinely false. Well, we genuinely believe they are false. And so that's why we do not want to listen really truly anymore. And we are just trying to see, okay, maybe if I keep my head down and accept the rules and follow the company's ways, I will maybe jump up in the company and get successful. Well, we have just seen how some of these big companies has laid off workers who have just helped them in a fast speed, working overnight and working, overtime to build up these programs that has just taken over from them, and so they are not needed anymore. And so in the name of the free competition, and then in the name of, you all compete for your success and I won. I used you and you got the money and you got the job. Now I don't need you. So get out and follow the good morals of slavery and go find another job, or just go at home and cry it out, or drink yourself to death, or whatever you want to go and do. There is even no more place on the list to go to psychiatry or psychology anymore. The list is already full, and it will become more and more full, and so they need to invest in producing more psychiatrists and psychologists. These are the new slave moral, garrisons, as the priests and imams and rabbis and those other types were in the old days. That's why Voltaire revolted against all this and said they are all saying God, but they really want the power. These clever philosophers who were put to death and put out of charge and put in prison because you could see through the system, and these people in power wanted to keep it by all might and force, instead of saying this is a wrong way we're going about this. We really genuinely need to care. And by caring, we will get more. We will be more praised and in more grace than we think by excluding everyone and giving them the slave moral and the false idea of that they can compete. And so how do people react to this? Most likely they go following that moral duty of doing their work and keeping their heads down, hoping to be promoted or that they will get some benefits or bonuses. And so many will get disappointed by that. And and back to the book here, they are using some examples that are really harsh and big measures of what happened in history of those people who were enslaved in the camps of the Gulag, and the people who were taken to the concentration camps. They had this philosophy and idea that this strong, powerful state and the people securing it, well, we have to cooperate with it. And if we go against it, we will lose. We will lose our families, our way of life. So if they are persecuting the others and dehumanizing them, maybe because their skulls are wrong, their color of skin is not the right one. Maybe it's their religion and background. They have lower values anyway, so why defend them? Why go with them? And so we come to that end point that people lower their heads and hope to get through while they are being eaten up by this dragons, sharks, whatever you want to call them. And so they lose more and more, and they only late realize how they have been enslaved in death, in a false dream of competing and succeeding, because they will always be pushed aside. I have known many people who have started to think about being entrepreneurs, as people who go and want to make a company that builds things and get the contracts, and they could never get through. And I've seen it in such a small country as Greenland, and made me realize that some people also in the state are helping the people who have the contracts stay in power so they can help them stay in power and leave everybody else out. And nobody is really entering. I had a friend who wanted to start such a company, and he started applying for it, and he hit so many walls, starting from that bureaucrat sitting there and giving him all type of difficulties just getting through with the application, and then putting it in a jar of cucumbers. How do they say in the United States? I don't know. Just we say putting it in a jar of cucumbers. It's like to make it go to become pickles, pickling their application. And so he lost his hopes at last when he saw that some other people has been going through the application because of their connections and because they belong to a certain group and race and interest groups. And so they could, and they got help from both local authorities, politics, and people who, they had the interest. And so they got through. And he, who didn't have the same connections, but was hoping in the fair and open society and the rules of law and that everyone should try. And I had warned him. I told him they will just steal your idea and they will put it to use in another way. And that's exactly the self-destructive mode that these societies go into in the end, because they go self-destructive because people will lose their faith in them, turn away from them, as we have said in the beginning of this video. And so to get to this end, the social contract between people in society to interact and use interactions as ways to be together and to exchange goods and to empower themselves and go on finding happiness, the means of capitalizing their abilities and gaining economical resources, so they can also have the symbolic and cultural resources as well. This is an eternal going competition, and sometimes it is also a struggle over the resources, and those who get to them first will keep on continuing that doxic accept that you are where you are, I am where I am because I deserve it and you don't. And the morals tells you not to revolt against me. And so you stay there, I stay here, and I will use my power to monopolize things, and when I do, you are not going to be able to take it away in any way, and that's the end of competition, and that's the end of the true dream, that everyone can become that. And so the culture that becomes tyrannical in that way, and the society that becomes in those ways is destined to, in a way, self-destruct or get into big trouble, at least. And this is not a communistic idea or something. It is from sociology, saying that people cannot just keep going on in these things. They do not need any ideology to make them go against those in power. It will happen automatically.